You carry a quiet ache that rarely speaks but never leaves. It sits behind your ribs, in that place where you breathe a little faster when the room is silent. It rises when the night grows soft and the world finally stops demanding things from you. In those moments, you feel the truth of it, the sense that you are always one step short of being whole, one gesture away from being worthy, one breath away from finally feeling enough. You try to hide it. You try to outrun it. You try to bury it under work, desire, noise, achievement, spiritual hunger. Yet it moves with you like a shadow that knows your name. You look in the mirror and see fragments. You see the version of yourself you wish you could be, and the one you fear you truly are. You feel the distance between them, thin as a thread and heavy as a stone. Something in you keeps searching, for approval, for belonging, for a moment when your chest relaxes and the world feels like a place you deserve to stand. You wait for someone to tell you that you matter the way the sun matters at dawn. You wait for the inner storm to lift. You wait for that quiet fullness that always seems to live on the other side of tomorrow. And yet, beneath all the searching, something deeper stirs. A whisper from a place you rarely visit. A sense that the emptiness you fear is not a flaw. It is a doorway. A soft crack in the surface of who you think you must be. A subtle invitation calling you back to the part of you that has never needed to prove anything at all. You feel the pull, even if you cannot name it. The beginning of a return. The first breath of awakening. The place where the story starts to turn. You begin to notice how the feeling of not being enough grows roots in the places where you learn to abandon yourself. It starts quietly, almost tender, like a voice you once trusted. A voice that told you to be good, to be impressive, to be useful, to be everything except what you already were. You carried that voice into adulthood without realizing it had turned into a judge. It watches everything you do. It whispers that you should try harder. It reminds you of every moment you felt unseen. And slowly, it convinces you that the emptiness inside is proof of some failure in your being. Yet if you look closely, the emptiness behaves like a shadow cast by a light you have forgotten to face. Its edges move when your attention shifts. It deepens when you resist it. It softens when you allow it to come closer. This is the ancient rhythm of the psyche, the dance between the self you show the world and the self that waits beneath the surface. The more you cling to the mask, the heavier it feels. The more you reach for external approval, the farther your inner center drifts. You chase accomplishments the way a thirsty traveler chases mirages. Each victory shines for a moment, then dissolves like mist. You tell yourself the next goal will silence the fear. The next relationship will soothe the ache. The next spiritual insight will finally reveal your worth. But every time you arrive, you feel the same quiet tremor in your chest. You realize you have been drinking from empty wells. There is a part of you that knows this. A part that watches from the forest of your inner world, patient and awake. It sees how you wander through memories like a dreamer searching for a lost home. It knows every step you take in the dark. It waits by the river of your deeper nature, the place where the water reflects who you are without distortion. And when you sit still long enough, you sense its presence. It feels like warmth returning to cold hands, like dawn pressing against the edges of a long night. You start to understand that the feeling of never being enough is not a punishment. It is a signal, a call back to the truth that cannot be taken from you, the truth that you were whole long before you learned to doubt your own light. There comes a moment when you feel the weight of your own striving settle into your bones. You wake with a quiet tension in your chest, as if the world expects something from you before you have even opened your eyes. You move through the day carrying an invisible burden. Every gesture feels like a test. Every silence feels like a mirror showing you the gap between who you are and who you think you should be. You sense this pressure in small ways, in the slight tightening of your jaw, in the breath you hold without noticing, in the subtle fear that someone will see through you. This is the landscape of the psyche when it has forgotten its center. Jung would say that you live divided, caught between the mask you wear and the voice beneath it. One part of you performs, another part hides. The more you cling to the mask, the more the hidden voice begins to ache. It becomes a shadow that follows your footsteps, not to punish you, but to remind you of what you abandoned. This shadow grows in the spaces where love was conditional, where presence was earned, where your worth felt like something fragile that could be taken away. You feel this inner split, like walking through a forest at twilight. The trees stretch tall around you, yet the path feels unclear. The light fades, yet something glows faintly ahead. A soft fire waits in the distance, flickering against the dark. You feel drawn to it, even though you fear what it might reveal. It is the fire of your true nature, the one you stepped away from when the world taught you to distrust your own light. As you take a step toward that faint glow, you notice how the heaviness begins to shift. The ache does not disappear, but it loosens. You realize that the feeling of never being enough is not born from lack. It rises from disconnection, a quiet forgetting of who you were before the world told you to become someone else. This realization does not heal you yet, but it opens a path you are finally ready to walk. You begin to see how much of your longing comes from wounds you learned to normalize. The places where you felt unseen became the blueprint of your self-worth. You shaped your identity around the hope that someone would finally notice you. You waited for affirmation the way a child waits for morning. You tried to earn love by shrinking your needs, softening your truth, polishing every edge of who you were. And over time, the world mistook your silence for strength and your self-denial for serenity. You forgot the sound of your own voice. Inside you, the unconscious holds these forgotten pieces the way a river holds fallen leaves. They drift beneath the surface, carried by currents you rarely feel. Yet they shape the landscape of your emotions. They pull you into old patterns. They whisper stories you mistake for reality. Jung would call this the return of the shadow, not as something dark or dangerous, but as a call toward wholeness. A reminder that the parts you abandoned still belong to you. They wait patiently, like figures in a dream standing at the edge of a clearing, hoping you will recognize them. You sense this in moments of unexpected emotion, a sudden sadness that rises without reason, a wave of irritation that surprises you, a loneliness that appears even in the presence of others. These emotions act like lanterns in a dark forest. They illuminate the path back to the places where your heart cracked. They invite you to listen without fear, to breathe into the ache rather than resist it. You notice how each feeling carries a story, and each story points toward a truth you once had to forget in order to survive. As you stand before these inner echoes, something inside begins to soften. You realize that the feeling of not being enough was never a verdict. It was a message, a quiet reminder that your worth cannot be found in the hands of another. It rises from the part of you that longs to return home, a part that does not want perfection, only presence. And as this truth settles in your chest, you feel the beginning of a shift. A small clearing opens inside you, a place where you can finally breathe. There comes a point when you stop running from the emptiness and turn toward it. At first it feels like standing at the entrance of a long-forgotten temple. The air is still. The silence carries old dust. You hesitate because you believe the emptiness will swallow you. Yet when you step inside, you find that it does not collapse around you. It expands. It opens like a hidden room you were always meant to enter. You feel something familiar in that quiet space, a presence that feels less like a void and more like a return. As you walk deeper, you realize the emptiness is not empty at all. It is the part of you that remained untouched by expectation, the part that never needed to perform or achieve or impress. It is your original pulse, your untouched breath. It is the center Osho spoke of, the place where desire dissolves into simple being. Here, you begin to see that your suffering came from chasing reflections in broken mirrors. You were searching for yourself in the eyes of others. You were trying to feel whole by gathering fragments that were never yours. In this inner temple, the walls shimmer like water. Each surface reflects a version of you once believed you had to become. The flawless one, the successful one, the spiritual one, the lovable one. You watch these reflections ripple and fade. You notice how none of them breathe. None of them feel. None of them hold the warmth of your real self. They fall away like old stories that no longer know your name. What remains is something simple, something steady, a quiet pulse beneath your ribs that says you are here. You are enough because you exist. You stand at the center of this temple and feel the veil lift. You understand that the ache you carried was a longing for this moment, a longing to meet yourself without conditions. This realization does not end your journey. It prepares you for the next step, a step toward living from the place within you that was never broken, a step toward letting your own presence be the light that guides you. You feel the echoes of your journey gathering in your chest like a slow rising tide. Every step you took through the forest of your inner world begins to align, as if the pieces have been waiting for this moment to reveal their shape. The striving you carried now feels lighter, almost transparent, like mist dissolving in early light. You sense how every ache, every doubt, every quiet tremor in your heart was guiding you back to the place you once abandoned, the place where your own presence stands quietly, waiting to be remembered. The shadow that once frightened you now feels familiar. It walks beside you without threat. It breathes with you. You understand that it was never an enemy. It was your forgotten face, the mirror you refused to meet because you feared the truth it held. And now, as you look into that mirror, you see not an accusation but a soft invitation, a gentle return to what you have always been beneath the layers you learned to wear. You feel the river within you moving again, slow, steady, alive. It carries old leaves away, carries memory toward clarity, carries your breath toward a deeper silence. You stand on its bank and watch the water shimmer with a light that seems to rise from your own center. You realize that the feeling of never being enough was a signal that you had wandered too far from this river, too far from the truth that your value does not come from the world. It comes from the pulse that lives beneath your skin. The inner temple that once felt distant now feels like home. Its quiet breath echoes your own. Its light, once faint, now fills your chest with a soft warmth. You feel the threads of your life weaving themselves again, not through striving, through remembering, not through effort, through presence. And as this realization settles into your body, a deep calm spreads through you, a calm that feels like standing at dawn, watching darkness soften into a new sky, a calm that reminds you that you were always whole, even when you forgot the way back. You sit inside yourself now with a gentleness that feels new. The ache that once pushed you forward has softened into a quiet clarity. You understand that your worth was never something to be earned. It was the ground beneath you, even in the moments when you felt lost. You feel this truth settling into your breath, steady and warm, like a small fire that needs no tending to burn. It asks nothing of you. It simply reminds you that you belong to yourself before you belong to the world. You walk back through the forest of your inner life and notice how the shadows have changed. They no longer reach for you with old fears. They greet you like familiar companions who finally understand your pace. You feel the river beside you again, its gentle movement echoing your own unfolding. You sense the temple within you glowing with a soft light. No urgency, no pressure, only presence, only a return to the quiet center that was waiting beneath every layer you learned to carry. As you step back into your everyday world, you carry a new awareness. Not a promise of perfection, not a vow to never feel the ache again. You carry the simple understanding that the emptiness you feared is now a space where breath can rest, where your truth can speak, where your presence can finally anchor itself without needing to prove anything at all. And in the silence that follows, you feel something like a blessing, a soft reminder that you are allowed to meet yourself with compassion. You are allowed to slow down. You are allowed to be enough exactly as you are in this moment. The rest will unfold in its own time, like dawn returning to a quiet sky.